Hey, this is Wileen Benson, and you are on the Daily Gratitude Call, where we start every day in gratitude. Gratitude is the highest energy state that we can be in. It creates a frequency of positive vibration that attracts positive experiences into our lives. Hey everybody, this is Wileen Benson. This is our Daily Gratitude Call. I'm excited for being back together with you today. Today's Friday, so hope you all have a wonderful Friday, wonderful weekend, and super excited for what we get to learn today. For today, there were a couple of things that really stood out to me, and everything kind of, the common thread of it was clearing. And I added clearing the way. So that's what we're going to focus on today. I'm not going to share anything else. I'm going to let you guys have your own private meditation and see what comes up for you. So I've got the timer set for 90 seconds, and we're going to have a private silent meditation on gratitude for clearing the way and see what comes up. Begin. All right. It's interesting. I hadn't realized there was so much clearing going on this week for me, but several things popped up. And so it must be very appropriate that we're focusing on this because it's the time for clearing, at least in my life. There's an irrigation ditch across the street from us. There's no homes directly across the street. It's the field. And there's a ditch that runs right alongside the road. And yesterday, as I was just sitting here in my office, I glanced up and there was smoke coming up from behind my car, and it looked like it was coming from my car. And it caused me a little bit of alarm. And I just about jumped up, and then I realized, oh, they're burning the ditch. So they go along and burn the weeds out of the ditch so that when the water comes down, it flows unimpeded. And then so there was like a cause for alarm to begin with, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh phew, it's just that. And then my daughter has been cleaning her closet out, and so her room is like a total mess. She even took a video of it yesterday and posted it on Instagram, how messy it was. And she's going to do a video at the end when she gets her closet all put back together. She's getting rid of a lot of stuff. And she called me in yesterday to show me the progress that she'd made. And her room was still a mess because she still hadn't gotten rid of or found places for things, but her closet was very neat. And then on Monday, if you've been on the gratitude call this week, on Monday, my inspired shortcut was to sweep my garage. And half of my garage is now completely clean. I spent about, 4 hours, 5 hours, something like that, on the garage that day. It was unplanned, but I went ahead and went forward with it because it was my inspired shortcut. That was the one thing I did. And it was super messy to the point that it was just like trails to the freezer. And now it's completely open. I need to post a picture. I sent a picture to my daughter, and she jokingly said, "Whose garage is this?" And it's almost to the point where I can actually park in it now. It was so cool. With every one of those, there's like a mess or something, to even with the irrigation ditch to be alarmed about when I didn't understand it completely. But the result is clearing the way, clearing a path, clearing a space for something more useful and beneficial to be accomplished. Who else has something that they would like to share?
I'll share.
Thanks, Melissa.
I'm really glad that you shared that, because I have been decluttering my house like for a while now, and I've gotten every room in my house except my own, and I literally am like having a mental block. I just don't want to do it. And so I really appreciate you sharing about your daughter, because I like my closet is like pulled out, but I have had the motivation to get in there and clean it. And so I already know my inspired shortcut for today.
Awesome.
But during the meditation, I was just thinking about clearing the way. Like, it's always our own head, our own mind, our own thoughts that are in the way of us achieving our goals. And I wasn't even thinking about my closet until you brought it up, but literally it's just thoughts in my head that's like, I don't want to do that. That's really hard. That's, it's really uncomfortable, and I want to be comfortable. And so I think I just need to embrace the discomfort and just kind of dive in and do it. Clear the way.
Thank you. And I love how you said it's always our own head in the way. So if we're clearing the way, we need to get our own head out of the way. I love that. All of our limiting beliefs, get those out of the way. Awesome. Who else?
Well, that was kind of my train of thought, with Melissa's is, we hedge up our own way, by creating some kind of a story of how much pain it's going to cause us if we move forward. And another thing that came to my mind is that it's hard to clean up a new way when you don't let go of the old way. And if you try to hang on to all those things, like I just got through moving, and I didn't realize how much junk I have. Oh my gosh, I haven't even used some of that stuff for years and years and years. And for some reason, I'm thinking, well, maybe someday I'll need it. And so, and rather than just letting it go, rather than just, letting somebody else use it, or, make space for something else, then I cling on to the thing, thinking that someday I'll need to use that. And I seem to do that even with my beliefs and my thoughts. And I think, if I let that go, then maybe someday I need it. Maybe someday I need that defense or whatever it is, So that was what's going on in my mind.
Awesome. Thank you. I have kind of a physical example that I can share with you kind of along those same lines. This has been several years ago. I had a chair in my basement that I had actually purchased before I got married. And so this chair was probably like 25 or 30 years old. And it had been scribbled on the back by my kids when they were little. And one of the, it had like little rollers on the bottom, and one of the rollers was there, but every time you tried to move it, it would fall off. And so you had to just like always be putting this roller back on. And it just was, it needed to be replaced, but I didn't have anything else to replace it. And so I kept using this old dilapidated chair. I think I actually have this example in my book, come to think of it. And one day I just got this feeling in the pit of my stomach. It was just like, I'm going to puke if I have to look at that chair any longer. And my daughter's boyfriend at the time, I said, will you help me carry that chair up? And he just actually picked it up and put it over his head and carried it upstairs all by himself. I was like, wow, that's awesome. And took it straight out to my truck. And we drove immediately to the secondhand store and dropped it off. And we walked in the secondhand store, and there was a chair sitting right there that was secondhand, but it was in 100% better shape than my chair had been for $75. And I went and sat in the chair, and I told one of my kids, go get somebody, I'm buying this chair. Go get somebody and, tell them to come and sell this chair to me. I don't want anybody else to grab it, so I'm going to sit in it. And if I had not, I mean, I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, was the feeling in my stomach saying, there's a chair right now at that secondhand store. If you go there right now, there's one that will replace this. I don't know if that was the feeling, if the feeling was because that chair was available, or if the feeling was about the chair and it finally was like, this is enough and I'm getting rid of this, and the universe provided for me. I don't know, which thing caused that feeling in my stomach, but I had to let go of that chair before I could make room for the other chair. The reason why I was holding on to it was these limiting beliefs of, well, I can't afford to go buy a, $300 chair right now, or $800 chair, how much it cost then. I think it cost me $300 to begin with 25 years before. But until it was just like, enough is enough. I'm getting rid of this. I don't care if I have to sit on the floor. I'm getting rid of this. Then that was when everything fell into perfect place. Thanks, Phil. Who else has something they'd like to share?
I will. What was really coming up for me was how we need to sometimes just clear space in our head. A lot of times we get that head trash that just needs to be taken out. And one of the seminars that I went to quite a while ago, they talked about how you can write, just to brain dump, just writing everything out, getting out of your head, so that it clears space for better things. And it's not just the negative things. It's just like all of the things that are like ideas that you haven't worked on, or just anything that's in your space that you need to clear, so that you can make room for new ideas and new things. And another visual that there was like holding a plate out in front of you, a large plate, and just taking everything, like imagine just pulling things out of your brain and putting onto that plate until the plate is full and overflowing. And then you've got space for new things in your head, and just really staying away from that head trash. I also feel that a lot of the belief breakthrough that we do is clearing up, the negative thoughts, the head trash, and making room for new beliefs, and how we can easily switch a negative into a positive and replace those negatives. But we've got to clear them out first.
Yeah, beautiful. A couple things came to me as you were talking. Breathing. On our gratitude call, before we start the recording, we do some breathing exercises, and I totally feel like that clears not just my head, but also my whole body. I just feel like I'm completely cleared. It's almost like a nice, heavy, like a nice brisk breeze that's coming through and just clearing everything out. When I exhale, I'm just like pushing anything out that doesn't fit for me. And even when I do a power alignment call with someone, or we do our permission process here on the call, it's like, take a deep breath. That's just like a cleansing thing. We aren't always able to control getting rid of situations in our life, but we can definitely get rid of that head trash as you're talking about. The other thought that came to me was like to-dos, the things that we have. We talk about having it figuratively on our plate. Like I have so much stuff on my plate, as you were talking about putting things on, visualizing yourself putting things on the plate. And it really does help to brain dump. I actually did that this morning. I had several little sticky notes with things written on it, and I was like, this is not helpful. And so I actually made two lists. I made one list that's really important, that these things get done right away. And then the other list was, this can get done whenever. And so that actually was like brushing those things off my plate for right now, and only the things that are, important for today, really this weekend, something very soon that needs to happen. And that actually felt really good to kind of get all those things. They all were in my head. I'd put them on sticky notes, and then it still was kind of like trash because it was just like these little sticky notes around. But now that I have them in an organized place, that one is on a to-do list for today, and the other one is on a to-do list for whenever. And I haven't done my daily GPS yet, so I don't know what my inspired shortcut is yet. But these things are, I at least was able to categorize them in, stuff that's important and stuff that can be done whenever. And that was just like it opened me up, to probably be able to receive my inspired shortcut even better. Any other last thoughts before we?
That reminds me of Stephen R. Covey's The Four Quadrants of production or productive living, and there's the urgent and important, urgent and not important, important but not urgent, and not urgent, not important, and how we tend to focus our attention on the not urgent, not important quadrant instead of the urgent but not urgent but important quadrant. That's really the one quadrant that needs our focus.
Is the urgent and important?
Well, urgent and important is like emergency mode, right? Like if you don't take care of the things that are not urgent but important, then they move into the category of urgent and
I see.
Mode, right?
Yeah, I remember reading that. It's been a long time. So not urgent but important would be things like doing your daily GPS every day. It's
right.
important, but nobody's gonna say anything if you don't do it.
Completing your routine of some sort that you've chosen.
Yeah, like your daily habits that really keep your life in flow.
Right. But we tend to put use most of our time on the not urgent, not important, kind of watching a movie, getting on our device, or just playing around and not really being productive.
Yeah, I would say that, in clearing the way, probably this not urgent but important is how we get there. Because just like Melissa's closet, it's not urgent, but it is important. And it's something that is going to clear the way for more, abundance. So that I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you.
Wileen, as you were talking about breathing, that just brought in mind too, that even in our bodies, we clear out the old air and we're bringing in clear. So that just was a visual to me as well.
Yeah.
Clearing and making space to fill our lungs with clean air.
That's great. Tyree, did you have something too?
I just wanted to add that sometimes, you as a child, you look at something and it seems like way too much and you don't know what to do, and so you just procrastinate along the lines of what people have been sharing. But as an adult, I do the same thing, especially with 5 kids, especially when I focus on feeling like they're working against me. And so sometimes I just need, like my husband yesterday, really cleared out a whole bunch of stuff and just junk that we had in our backyard and in our garage, and just cleared that out, and not all of it, but he got a good start, and it just opened things up, and so I could see where I needed to work. Whereas before it was just like, holy moly, this is too much. I just can't do it.
Wow, that brings a new kind kind of a new aspect or a new layer into this. If I do my part, do my clearing, the thing that is mine to do, then it kind of like helps everybody else to see what their part is. And as moms, that is moms or dads or leaders in any capacity, employers, leader of a team or whatever, me doing my part, then all of a sudden the team actually sees, they can see more like what their part is. If with the garage, my husband was busy doing other things, so I actually did that all myself that day. And I feel like it was mine to do. It wasn't all my stuff, but it was definitely mine to do that day. And I learned, it just was really therapeutic for me to be able to do that. There was one little pile, just a really small pile. Probably like 5 things. It was really tiny pile that I didn't really know what to do with. It was my husband's, and I was like, I'm not sure where he wants this. So I just made just a little tiny pile. And after I was completely done and he was done with what he was doing for the day, then he came in and I said, there's this little tiny pile. I just need you to go through that. And for him, if I had said, will you help me clean the garage? It would have been super overwhelming to him, and it would have taken him away from what his thing was. But when I did my part, then it was just such a simple, easy thing for him to come and do his part. I appreciate you bringing that up, Tyree. I hadn't really connected those dots and learned that lesson until just now. So thank you. It's beautiful. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath. This is a really great opportunity for us to shift into our permission process. Finding what your part is, just allowing yourself, your heart and your mind and your spirit to be one in this meditation. Those logical things that we have in our minds that we know, I need to do this. The creative ideas that are floating around inside of your head that's like, I want to do this. And just know that all of this there was some reason why this is being stored away at some point. It was important to you to make sure that you kept these things in your mind and stored them away and kept them there for later use. So I invite you to just become more aware of all of those things and take a moment right now and just do a little mind dump. Just write down, or if you want to just visualize putting it out on a plate like Kathy was saying, but just get those out of your mind and onto paper so that you can allow yourself to be completely clear. Getting rid of all the good, bad, ugly, pretty, whatever it is, the things that are floating around in your head. Just allow, as you're breathing, just allow those things to come to the surface, write them down so they won't be forgotten and that you can completely let go of them. All the things you have to do, all the important things that are not urgent, but you know in your heart that there are things that really need to be done, and also the limiting beliefs that might be showing up as well about letting go of all these things. And just give yourself maybe another 30 seconds to write. Just let everything go. Not forever, just on the paper. And as you're looking over that list of things that were floating around inside of your head, first of all, identify anything that is unimportant. And maybe unimportant means that you've been holding on to something for someone else. So unimportant or not yours. And if it's something that's not yours, I invite you to just be aware of who it belongs to. If it's something that needs to be done, I invite you to make a commitment today to give that back to the person that it belongs to so that they can take care of it. And maybe you get to follow up and make sure it gets done, or maybe you just completely release it. If it's something that belongs to somebody else energetically, then you don't need to physically go to that person and talk to them. You can just right now say in your heart, return to sender with full consciousness attached. And the full consciousness is you're sending it back to them so that they are fully aware of it. And they get to do with it whatever they choose. You don't have to physically go to them. You can just energetically send it back to them and request that it go back with full consciousness. And they get to choose what they do with it. And of the things that are left, take a moment. And as we talked a little bit about priorities yesterday, let's take a moment and prioritize these things that are left. Everything that is urgent and important, put the letter A next to it. And then take a moment and prioritize 1, 2, 3, however many there are. Which one is the most important for you to do today? The one most important thing. Put a 1 by that. And actually, we're just going to leave it at that. Just circle that one. That's the only one that needs to be done today. And everything else, if it's not an A, then put it on a separate list to be addressed at another time. And just allow only the urgent and important to be focused on today, or for this next little while, this weekend. And then begin to put those habits in place where the important things get done, whether they're urgent or unurgent. Be aware of a habit that you can put into place where they never get too urgent, that they get done in a systematic way. So take another deep breath. Give yourself the moment right now to be aware of a system that can be put in place so that these things actually get done on a consistent, regular basis so they never become urgent. And what is the limiting belief that's coming up for you about implementing that system? As you're becoming more clear with what that limiting belief is, of course, you know that there's a cost to the limiting belief. Cost is eventually they get to the urgent state. What are other costs that are associated with this limiting belief? And if you don't like that cost, if you want to change that, you can give yourself permission to change the limiting belief to a new belief. And if you're ready to do that, to change that limiting belief to a new belief, say yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Then what are those new beliefs? Let's choose 2 or 3 new beliefs that will empower you to be able to put that system in place. And maybe you don't know all the details of the system yet, but new beliefs that allow you to be open to the system being revealed to you, of how to keep these things in a high important priority and that they never get to the place of urgent, that they just take care of themselves automatic. What are your new beliefs that empower you to live a more clear, calm, peaceful life, having all the important things taken care of? And going back to that urgent and important, evaluate, is it really urgent? Is it really important? And listening one more time for that inspired shortcut. If it's not the urgent and important, if it's not that urgent and not that important now, take a deep breath and ask, what is the most important thing for me to do today? And maybe it's to implement this system. What's the most important thing that you can do to implement your new system? We have just a couple minutes for shares. If there's anybody who is struggling with this in any way, I'd love to have a conversation with you. Just go to askwylene.com. That takes you directly to my calendar, and you can schedule a 15-minute call. It's free, just a free mentoring session with me by going to askwylene.com. Who has something that they would like to share about their experience today?
I want to share.
Okay, thanks, Phil.
Okay, so there are things like that I avoid, right? Things that they seem like heavy to me. They seem like if I do these things, then what'll happen is that it'll resurrect like old emotions. It'll make me go to a place where it's uncomfortable for me, and so like I don't know that that's true, but I believe that it's true, and so I avoid going to that place. And that's and the limiting belief is that it's going to be really heavy. But the reality, and that's false, because really when you clean something up and you finish something old, then you actually create space. It's freeing. It's not heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a little bit of work involved. That's true, but the reward is freedom. So my new belief is that when I let it go and I clean it up, that I am free. And so that's the goal. And then my new belief too is I like having things organized. I like having things let go so that I'm able to move forward. And even that statement has a little bit of like resistance to it, negative belief to it, because part of me wants to cling on to the past.
Mm-hmm.
And by having that thing brings back like some kind of a safety or some kind of the belief that as long as I have this, then I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm clinging to the outside world, and that's my limiting belief again, coming up. And so,
Awesome.
Yeah.
I just want to just introduce a slightly different view and see if this maybe helps. It feels to me like the limiting belief and the new belief and the feeling that you have is that if I let it go, I have to let it all go. Like when I was cleaning my garage, I let go of a lot of stuff, but there's some still useful stuff in there that I kept. So retaining the beautiful memories, retaining the useful lessons, the things that you're letting go are the things that are heavy. and that are weighing you down and they're holding you back. So letting go of those things, but also giving yourself permission to keep the things that are beautiful and light and free and happy. How does that feel?
Yeah, I love how you said, like, I have to let it all go.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I open up the box, I have to empty the whole thing out and throw it in the garbage.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that you don't. You get to find the beautiful pieces in there and keep
Mm-hmm.
those, and then let all of the other garbage go that was cluttered around it, that you couldn't even remember the beautiful part of it, because every time you looked at the box, you saw it was a bunch of junk.
Wow. So. Yeah. You need to get a new box that's really beautiful to look at, that doesn't remind you of all the old yucky stuff, and get rid of the old yucky stuff and place all of the things that are beautiful into your new beautiful box. And then it's a completely new experience that you're moving forward with. Thank you.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, I love you guys. We are going to go ahead and end our call today. We're at the end of our time. I encourage you to post on the Facebook group, Breakthrough with Gratitude. We'd love to continue interacting there, and look forward to being back together on Monday morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Time. Continue doing your gratitude practice in your daily GPS throughout the weekend. Excited for what you get to do with this new stuff that we've learned today about clearing your path. And thank you again for being on today. We'll look forward to being back together Monday morning. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so good.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. And I encourage you to tune in every day to the Daily Gratitude Call. And the Daily Gratitude Call happens live every weekday morning. I'd love to have you join. So to find out how to join live, go to my website, WileenBenson.com. Thanks for tuning in.